Congratulate yourself, because you've just made the best decision you're likely to make all day. You've tuned into the voice of reason with Tugboat Calhoun. Tugboat answers your questions and brings you the news that you need to know, because Tugboat knows better than you. And now, here's Tugboat.
Toot toot. Tugboat Calhoun here, towing another load of pants-free podcasting into port by daybreak. I know, Tuggernauts, you heard I'd died. Well, I'm an opportunist. I took an opportunity as it was presented to me, and now I have escaped the legal jurisdictions and statutes of limitations, and now here I am, emerged in FEMA Region 7, free from certain extraditions. And if you'd like to know more about my legal battles, I will reveal that next week on the first episode of the Voice of Reason with Tugboat Calhoun, newest edition, whatever. This is simply a test show, or a test program, if you will, to make sure that all of my fancy new equipment is working thusly, and to make sure the format of the program is well laid out. Also, there will be many new introductions coming up, so this is just to work out all the kinks, and since I'm kinky, don't tell Mama Calhoun, in a voyeuristic fashion, I've decided to open up this aspect of my life to all of you, the Tuggernauts, so you can experience it with me. And now that I've completed the introduction/musings, as I've been allotted 5 minutes for that in the show breakdown, we're going with a 1 hour format. I'll just see whatever the test show comes out to be, whatever it is. But I've been allotted 5 minutes for an introduction, breaking news/musings by Sully Sullivan, manager here at WDCK Studios. So I must pause the recording and start a brand new segment in 5, 4, you know the rest.
Now, it's time for our first segment, Voice of the Heroes, here on The Voice of Reason with Tugboat Calhoun.
Today's hero is a woman in Indiana, and this story had been shared with me by a Tugger babe named Annie, and the story of our hero reads as follows, and it's a bit complex, it's a bit lengthy, so stay with me here. Indiana police are investigating a fight between two female shoppers, one of whom is heard urging her young son to join in the fray by punching her opponent in the face. Video of the fight, which apparently occurred this month, was first posted to YouTube 3 days ago. Clips show the women brawling in the shampoo aisle of the Wal Mart Supercenter in Beech Grove, a city 6 miles outside Indianapolis. Another video of the brawl, which was shot by a second Walmart patron, shows the boy squirting shampoo or lotion on his mother's opponent and then throwing the container at the woman as she gets to her feet. It is unclear what prompted the fight, which began after one woman, who was wearing a "You Only Live Once" t-shirt, beckoned her opponent to step off a motorized shopping cart. Quote, "You don't even look like you need to be in a wheelchair," unquote, the woman said, adding, "Get your ass up, ellipses, get up," unquote. The women then exchanged blows and quickly tumbled to the floor, where the now barefoot fighter in the YOLO t-shirt sat astride the other woman. After the woman's 6-year-old threw a shampoo bottle at the other combatant, she yelled, "Johnny, punch her in the face, Johnny, punch her in the face." Over the next few minutes, the child is seen punching and kicking his mother's opponent. He also struck the woman with items taken from store shelves and doused her with what appears to be shampoo or lotion. "I'm not playing," the boy says at one point. Asked about the fight, Beech Grove Police Department Chief Mike Schwartz replied in an email, quote, "It is being investigated," end quote. As for what possible crimes were committed, Schwartz said that the prosecutor will have the say on charges. That brings us to naming 34-year-old Amber Stevenson as our hero of the week. Why? Well, because, as she says, quote, "I don't raise my children to take any shit," end quote. And also, remember, Tuggernauts, the age-old principle of strength in numbers. Some people have many children so that they don't have to do household chores, so that they don't have to do farm labor, and some have many children to help them engage in battles with people who are riding around on motorized scooters. So if you have not seen the video, I will post it on my Tugboat Calhoun Facebook page. I think I can also link it on tugboatcalhoun.com, my website, which you can go to and find any number of Tugboat Calhoun-related activities and tidbits. But both women are in Wal Mart attire, unnecessarily tight yoga pants and t-shirts, so one wearing flip-flops and the other wearing pink shoes, Crocs, I can't really tell. But the woman, without the assistance of her child in this fight, launches herself off of the Wal Mart-provided motorized scooter and attacks the woman by crossing her own forearms in front of her and just kind of barreling into the other woman's face. And while they're on their feet, the wheelchaired woman seems to have the better of the exchange. However, much like an MMA match or a Manny Pacquiao fight, most of it was them rolling around on the ground, and whilst on the ground, Miss Stevenson, with the aid of her young son, seems to get the better of that exchange. And that leads me to this next article about Miss Stevenson, which reads, "The Indiana Wal Mart brawler who urged her 6-year-old son to punch another woman, quote, in the face, end quote, wants you to know that she is a doting mother, and that, quote, I don't raise my children to take any shit, end quote." Which I believe she meant, I raise my children to not take any shit, but once you're quoted, you can't take it back. A video of the brawl, which went viral earlier this week, shows Stevenson yelling to her child, "Johnny, punch her in the face, Johnny, punch her in the face," while she had a woman, whose surname is Mills, pinned to the ground in the store's shampoo aisle. During the course of the 5-minute scrap, Stevenson's son kicked and punched the prone Mills and struck her with items taken from the store's shelves. The child also doused Mills with shampoo or lotion as the brawl concluded. In his own Facebook post, Johnny Bishop, Stevenson's fiancé and young Johnny's dad, wrote of his beloved, quote, "That's my baby. She won't start shit, but she will definitely finish it. Love you, babe," end quote. He also claimed it was self-defense and Wal Mart didn't have any security to stop it. Stevenson recently completed courses at Kaplan College. I don't know why that had been added to the story, however, that makes her even more of a hero in my estimation. As you may know, if you know me personally, and if you don't, I will tell you now, I am no longer a member of the Mount Zion Holiness Church of Snake Handling and Prophecy. I am now a worshiper of the sun and of academics. So, with Miss Stevenson having been a recent completionary of courses at Kaplan College, that elevates her status in my mind. And to counter our hero of the week, we have our victim of the week. Because as anyone in America knows, we love a good victim story. Man tried to smuggle oxycodone hidden inside a McDonald's double cheeseburger to his jailed wife. An Alabama man tried to smuggle oxycodone to his imprisoned wife by hiding the pills between the patties of a McDonald's double cheeseburger that he dropped off to the local jail, cops report. Timothy Lee Thompson's bid to get 2 powerful pain pills into the tiny Red Bay City jail was thwarted when a police employee searched the McDonald's grub and discovered their narcotics. Thompson, 31, was arrested Friday for promoting prison contraband. He was subsequently freed on $2,500 bond after being booked on the felony count. Thompson's spouse, Ashley, who is facing a theft charge, remains locked up in jail, which houses up to 4 inmates, according to the Red Bay Police Department's chief, Jana Jackson. Jackson told The Smoking Gun that her department allows inmates to receive food and care packages from friends and family, but added that the items are checked before entering the lockup. Thompson was aware of this since he had previously dropped off a book for his wife and watched as an officer did a page-by-page examination of the volume. Since inmates are fed Bologna sandwiches and Hot Pockets, the dropping off of food has been allowed by police. However, following the oxycodone smuggling attempt, food items brought into the jail for inmates must now be sealed, Jackson said. And so, of course, our victim of the week is Miss Ashley Thompson, since she was thusly denied a delicious McDonald's double cheeseburger. So sad. So very sad.
Good news, comrades! Now is the time for your favorite segment, Voice of the Proletariat. Here on the Voice of Reason with Tugboat Calhoun.
It's now during this segment, Tuggernauts, that you may ask me, Tugboat Calhoun, questions or for advice about your life, because I'm a giver. Just my nature is to give back to those who have given nothing to me. So here I am, helping you out with your life, donating my time and energy to advancing the cause of whatever it is that you want to advance. If you have questions for me, you can email me at toottoot@tugboatcalhoun.com or tugboat.calhoun@yahoo.com. You can go to my website, tugboatcalhoun.com, and find the various ways to contact me. And yes, it's a real site. Yes, it can handle more than 6 people a day going there. I don't update it for nothing. The first question is from Tugger Babe Lily, and she wants to know, Tugboat, why do people lose their accents when they move into a new area with a specific accent? What are the chances of developing one at a specific age? Well, because of billions of years of evolution, human speech changes as we have different surroundings. For example, I now live in FEMA Region 7, where they speak a little differently than they did in FEMA Regions 3, 4, and 6, where I had previously been. I, however, try to maintain my accent because you have a distinct advantage with the local ladies if you speak oddly or strangely or in any way a different manner than the people around them. So I try to maintain my accent no matter where I go. That way I have that elevated chance of spending time with the local ladies. And what are the chances of developing an accent, at a specific age? Well, likely what you're exposed to the first several years of your life is what you will carry forward the remaining years of your life. However, if you move from, say, FEMA Region 1 to FEMA Region 6, your FEMA Region 1 accent will likely diminish as you are around the FEMA Region 6 twang and are listening to country music on the radio, listening to people at the Rattlesnake Roundup, things like that. So you probably won't develop an accent, but you'll probably develop specific words in the local English or American English dialect. But if you really want to develop the accent, you can force it. People will think you're a phony.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy. I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me. And the chair of all the mayors in the country, Mayor Palmer from Trenton, New Jersey.
So, what are the chances of developing a new accent? Likely pretty slim. So thank you for the question, Lily. Lee would like to know, Tugboat, what's the last movie you saw in theaters? Well, Tugger Nuts will answer this question because it's just a test program. It's not a real broadcast. However, I hate talking about myself. As an anti-narcissist, I try to avoid any topics relating myself. So people ask me what kind of music I like, what movies I like, when my last bowel movement was, things like that. You can ask me for my opinions in my advice, but things about my life, nobody is that interested in my life. So let's just keep the topic on you, the Tuggernaut. But Lee, like I said, I will answer, and I am about to. Rick Pecker Management, took me to some Hobbit movie last, right around Christmas time. Not that I condone Christmas in any way, it's very hateful. It's also very male chauvinistic with that tree, it's just a phallic symbol. Although I do like the idea of Santa Claus stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, who deserve it. But it was some Hobbit movie. He brought me to a place where they had frozen hamburger patties beforehand, and they had mixed beverages, so that's the only reason I allowed the frozen patty. As you know, I'm a burger purist. But then we went to a gas station so I could buy some booze, because in the specific area of FEMA Region 6 where I lived, you could buy booze at a gas station. However, across the former state lines in his area of Region 6, you could only buy beer at the gas station. So Mrs. Pecker was being a real cockblock that night, and she wouldn't smuggle in the 16-ounce cans of Lone Star beer that I had purchased in her purse. So I had to put them in my pockets and various other places and smuggle them in. I bought a large, biggest Coca-Cola product that they had. I went to the bathroom, dumped it out, and then filled it with several ounces of Lone Star beer. We had a nice sing-along, some Rocky Mountain Hop or something along those lines, and then the Hobbits eventually won, and there was a lion and a wardrobe and a witch, and it was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. It was something about the Hobbit Kings, and it was great. I'd recommend it highly. Thank you for the question, Lee. The next question is from Jasmine, and Jasmine wants to know, Tugboat, should I tell this lady to back off from my husband? She keeps asking him for a hug. It makes me feel uncomfortable. My husband never even high-fives with me, yet she wants a hug. He told her no many times, but she keeps asking. So Jasmine, when you say husband, do you mean like middle school crush? Was to where a high-five was an exchange of intimacy between a married couple. But anyway, you could always tell her that your husband is gay and has no intention of hugging or high-fiving her. And also, if you are hugging or tugging him at home, then you don't have to worry about him going and being hugged or tugged by other women. So you can high-five him in his special place, and you don't have to worry about him giving in to the temptation of being hugged by strange women. Thank you for the question, Jasmine. Now a question from Rich. He would like to know, Tugboat, can a liberal baker be forced to bake a cake with a Confederate flag on it? No, Rich, only Christian bakers can be forced to bake cakes or be sued into closing their doors. Thank you for the question. The next question is from Blue Goose. I know a few Blue Falcons, but never met a Blue Goose before. Blue Goose, well, his name is Connor because it's in the email. He is a Tugger Tot, and even though this show is rated as explicit on iTunes and other podcast carriers, somehow 13-year-old Connor, aka Blue Goose, is still able to listen. And he writes, Tugboat, my mom spanked me in front of my friends, ? So here, what he's done is he has turned a statement into a question by putting ? On the end. Very innovative. I like it. He continues, so I'm 13 and my friends and I were hanging out in the basement of my house and my mom, really a stepmom, came down and yelled at me, Connor, did I or did I not ask you to do the dishes? And I was like, yes, you did, and then she said, well then why are they still sitting in the sink? Get off your butt and go do them now. And I asked her if I could do them once my friends left, and if I could, I would do them for the next week. But she got really mad and told me to pull my pants and underwear down, and of course I told her no because my friends were girls, and then she came over and ripped my pants and underwear down and pulled me over to the couch, told me to lay down, and then she started spanking me with her belt. Was this right? Am I being dramatic? What do I do? Have you ever seen your friends get spanked? Well, Connor, first of all, I'm a little surprised that you weren't able to physically resist at the age of 13, but you've probably been eating GMOs and high fructose corn syrup your whole life, and you've been emasculated, so I suppose really my surprise should be surprising in that I should not be surprised. So, let me see what your questions are from your story here. Was this right? Well, your question's irrelevant because there's no such thing as right and wrong. There is no morality. Everything is relative. So in this instance, was she right? Well, from your standpoint, no. From her standpoint, yes. From your friend's standpoint, hilarious. Am I being dramatic? Yes, you're being dramatic. What do I do? Well, maybe hide your mother's belts so she can't hit you with them any longer. And perhaps you should start doing push-ups and pull-ups so you can physically resist being spanked at the age of 13 by your mother or stepmother. And have you ever, you being me, Tugboat Calhoun, have you ever seen a friend getting spanked? Well, yes, but not in the same way that you were spanked. Well, I mean, kind of. Well, I don't know. I don't want to get too vulgar here, but short answer, yes. Yes, I've seen some friends getting spanked. So, man up. Well, that phrase is legal now, but human up, I guess. And thank you for the question, Blue Goose Connor. The next question is from Kay, and she wants to know, Tugboat, why does my boyfriend call me sex names during sex? Is this normal for guys? Well, I hope that you enumerate here below what sex names are, but it seems appropriate to be called sex names during sex. Anyway, Kay writes, I'm 22 and my boyfriend is 24, ellipses. Actually, it's like 7 dots, so double ellipses with a remainder of 1. We have sex a lot, and sometimes he says things that just leave me puzzled. We are not married and have no kids. Emphasized points that were written in all capital letters. For what reason, I don't know. Here, this is the reason. He will say things like, come here, mama, or give it to daddy. Or he will say things like, you have been a bad girl, this is your punishment, make it up to daddy, and me. Don't get me wrong, these things turn me on. Should I just play along with it? Do you have an idea on why he says these things? Does your husband or boyfriend say it to you? Well, I know there has been a landmark Supreme Court ruling, however, it's not mandatory yet, so I don't have a husband or boyfriend, Kai, but thank you for suggesting that. Well, it could be one of two things, or both of two things. More than likely, your 24-year-old boyfriend has been watching pornography for more than half of his life, and is just repeating the things that are said in these videos, which I haven't seen, but understand can be quite graphic and have cheesy dialogue. The other possibility could be that he has some sort of weird fantasy, and he is playing a role and wants you to play the opposite role to him. I imagine it's the first, but it's a wacky world out there, and morality and species are relative, so it could be one or both. Thank you for the question, Kai. Or K. K-A-I, I don't know. Spelling's also relative in the 21st century. Next, Cloud would like to know, Tugboat, who is the anime character you hate most? Well, I had to look up anime, and apparently it's just cartoons that adults watch, but it's not adult in the way that there is coitus. It's just adult in the way that there's lots of violence and swearing, and it's not really on TV, so people develop these strange obsessions with these really fast-moving and nonsensical cartoons. Well, since I've not seen any anime, I'm going to have to go back to my childhood, when I watched cartoons as a child. And I do remember a particularly loathsome character on the Smurfs, one Gargamel. However, at the risk of being called an anti-Semite and a self-hating Jew, I will skip over the atrocities of Gargamel and his genocidal campaign against the Smurfs, and just go with Shredder. Shredder was a big jerk. However, I do appreciate the autocratic tendencies and his command over the mindless foot soldiers. I someday aspire to be like him. However, I can certainly see how in our contemporary culture, where people love pizza-eating turtles, that Shredder could be seen as a bad guy. So, Shredder is the character I hate the most. Thank you for the question, Cloud. The next question is from Dan B., and Dan B. wants to know, Tugboat, if you are renting an apartment that is privately owned, as opposed to a publicly owned apartment, I suppose, does the owner have to supply a backup generator in case of a power outage? No, Dan, they don't. Thank you for the question. Next, a question from Acrobat, and Acrobat wants to know, Tugboat, one night stand with Selena Gomez or marry Taylor Swift? Random question, smiley face, haha. Well, Selena Gomez and I had a famously viral public spat over her support of killing the Jews during the most recent trouble in the Gaza Strip, so I don't know if I can get over that, even though physically she is an attractive young lady. Marrying Taylor Swift, well, I don't know, this T-Swift character is quite powerful, and I could probably use my marriage to her, well, hypothetical, potential, future marriage, to her to get into positions of power myself. So I think I'm going to play the Vladimir Putin long game here and go with the option of marrying Taylor Swift, if she would accept. Thank you for the question. And the last question comes from Robert, and Robert wants to know, Tugboat, the ancient Egyptians owned slaves. Should the pyramids be torn down to appease liberals? Ooh, well, you know, I don't like to talk politics on the program here. However, let's talk about the pyramids. They were built as energy stations for alien spaceships. They were not built by slaves. Therefore, the argument is irrelevant. Thank you for the question, Robert. For your benefit, we will conclude this segment with a moral lesson as given by my mistress/secretary, Miss Sophia. Miss Sophia, if you would please take up the Aesop's Fables, and we will read the moral lesson about seasoned counsel with sense. So, ladies and gentlemen, Tuggernauts and Tugger-Tots, Tugger Babes from around the world, I now introduce for the first time on air my mistress/secretary, Miss Sophia, with this week's moral lesson.
A man who had been bitten by a dog was advised by an old woman to cure the wound by rubbing a piece of bread in it and giving it to the dog that had bitten him. He did so, and Aesop, passing by at the time, asked him what it was about. The man told him, and Aesop replied, I am glad you do it privately, For if the rest of the dogs of the town were to see you, we should be eaten up alive.
Unfortunately, coming up, we have your least favorite segment, Voice of Vermont, here on the Voice of Reason with Tugboat Calhoun.
Indeed, Tuggernauts, it is my sad and unfortunate duty to bring you the news from the Green Mountain State. Vermont Quilt Festival celebrates 39 years. In Essex Junction, Vermont, one of the region's oldest and largest quilt festivals returns to Essex Junction this year. The Vermont Quilt Festival is celebrating its 39th year. Dozens of vendors will show off handcrafted quilts and other sewing specialties. It begins June 26th at the Champlain Valley Expo and runs through Sunday. So there you have it, Tuggernauts, an article, uncredited, which expounds upon and several times repeats the title. More breaking news from Vermont. Richard Matt fatally shot by Border Patrol agent from Vermont. Richard Matt, as you may know, is the famously escaped convict from a New York State prison, and he's been denied his civil right to life by a Vermonter. A notoriously manly and gun-toting Vermont agent has shot the prisoner. Probably, and I'm just speculating here, probably his hands were up and his back was turned to the agent. These things happen because of the free access to guns and machismo in the Green Mountain State. But anyway, the story reads, one of two convicted murderers who staged a brazen escape from an upstate New York maximum security prison 3 weeks ago was shot and killed Friday in a gun battle with law enforcement officers in a wooded area about 30 miles from the prison, and the other is still on the run. U.S. Senator Chuck U. Schumer, who was briefed by the U.S. Border Patrol and U.S. Marshals, said Richard Matt was fatally shot by a Border Patrol agent from Vermont. Officers are trucking in floodlights to where David Sweat is believed to be hiding, not far from where Matt was killed. Chuck U. Schumer said searchers closed in on the pair after receiving a 911 call from a snitch who heard someone knock on her door early Friday in Malone, which is 30 miles west from the Clinton Correctional Facility. Quote, she didn't answer the door, but she called the police, end quote, he said. I don't know who he is. Maybe Schumer. He said they brought the dogs, they got the scent, and they followed the scent and put out a lot of troops around the cabin. They came up and found him and killed him. So not only do they deny people the civil right to life in Vermont, but they press animals into service. And not in a fun service like in a circus, but in hunting down and killing people. Proud of yourself, Vermont? You feel like a big man? Now a story by Lisa Rathke. Vermont study shows whooping cough vaccine works. And of course Vermont was picked for this study because the antiquated and archaic disease, I'm sure, is still rampant there, as rampant as the heroin epidemic. Preliminary data from a Vermont study shows that despite changes in strains of the whooping cough, a common vaccine is still effective in preventing the highly contagious disease, the Centers for Disease Control said Thursday. The Vermont Health Department and CDC collected data from 820 cases in children and adolescents in Vermont following an outbreak, confirming my speculation, from 2011 to 2013. Despite the changes in the bacteria, what we're seeing from the results is that the vaccine is still effective, and it's still the best option for protecting against pertussis. Lucy Breakwell, a CDC epidemic intelligence officer, told the Associated Press Thursday. We report now on a story out of Enosburg Falls, Vermont. Vermont State Police say a farm worker has been critically injured in an accident with a hay baler in Enosburg Falls. Police say the 21-year-old man was working on a large hay baler when he was injured Friday around 11:30 a.m. He was taken to the Northwestern Medical Center in St. Albans and was later transported to the Vermont Medical Center in Burlington with critical injuries. Police say a preliminary investigation has determined that the accident was caused by someone named Jack Failure. And lastly, we report on a story published this morning from Barrie, Vermont. A Randolph man, well, why they're reporting from Barrie. A Randolph man is accused of trying to get a 14-year-old girl to have sex with him via Facebook. How do you have sex on Facebook? Craig Kernahan, age 30, pleaded not guilty in Washington County Criminal Court Thursday to a felony count of attempting to lure a child. If convicted, Kernahan faces a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. According to the affidavit of Detective Larry Eastman of Barry City Police, Eastman received a call from a mother in May of 2014, swift police work, more than a year later he's been arrested, saying her daughter had been receiving inappropriate messages on her cell phone from Kernahan. Eastman said the girl and Kernahan had connected through Facebook when Kernahan messaged her and asked her to be his quote-unquote buddy. Kernahan reportedly asked the girl how old she was. She replied she was almost 15. Eastman said Kernahan claimed to be a tattoo artist, and the girl asked if she could get a free tattoo. Kernahan asked what he could get in return. The conversation then turned sexual. Kernahan has previous convictions of driving with a suspended license in 2013, violating abuse prevention orders in 2013, felony burglary in 2011, and driving under the influence in 2011. Well, to conclude our Voice of Vermont segment, I have now for you unusual cultural traditions from around the world that America should adopt unilaterally, immediately. I bring to you today the El Colacho baby jumping tradition. In this tradition, the residents of Spain have been taking part in a culture called El Colacho since 1620. El Colacho means baby jumping. Originally, El Colacho was organized to keep the devils away. In this festival, infants are laid on mattresses in the street after heavy crowds gather to watch. Which is odd because people in Spain are pretty fit and trim. I've been there. Everyone is in relatively good shape, so I don't know where they get the heavy crowd from. Anyhow, the heavy crowd gathers to watch, and the jumpers wear traditional costumes that look like devils. Despite injuries sometimes occurring during the jump, this festival is still getting constant popularity in Spain. And hopefully, by administrative order, it will also be getting popular in the U.S., where a heavy crowd is not going to be difficult to find.
Forget the dinosaur media. Tugboat will tell you everything that you need to know in this next segment. Voice of Tugger Earth. Here on The Voice of Reason with Tugboat Calhoun.
Bigfoot has a big problem, in bed. We might just finally know why Bigfoot is always hiding. He's embarrassed. You figure an ape man with famously big feet would be well endowed in other areas, but we sit down with Bigfoot hunting primatologist Natalia Regan on the HuffPost Weird News podcast, which don't recommend you listen to because it's a competing podcast, and as we know, competition is of the devil, as is capitalism and all other things in which I do not excel at. Anyway, she has a theory why Bigfoot might be a big disappointment with the ladies. Regan, who was also on Spike's $10 million Bigfoot bounty, says Bigfoot might be big and scary like a gorilla, but gorillas also have small penises, less than 2.5 inches. If you want to know about Bigfoot's wing, you should really understand the wings of other primates that you think Bigfoot is like, said Regan, who is also an anthropologist. If you think Bigfoot is a large-bodied primate like a gorilla or orangutan, and a lot of squatchers think Bigfoot is a descendant of Gigantopithecus, gorillas and orangutans actually have quite small manhoods. Pound for pound, humans have bigger penises than other primates. Some believe that's because humans walk on 2 legs, and at some point in the evolutionary adventure, genital size became an attractive quality in a mate. Gorillas, chimpanzees, and orangutans tend to walk more on all 4s, so they're not really advertising their sex organs. Are advertising their big red asses, however. Plus, if Bigfoot does exist, Regan says, it would have a small dick and a penis bone called a baculum. Humans do not have this literal bone, whereas a lot of primates actually have bones in their dicks. Of course, just because some people believe in Bigfoot doesn't mean that he, she, it actually exists. We can only guess what this legendary beast is really like. However, evolutionary sciences help us to form some educated opinions about Bigfoot's dick. As a scientist who tries to teach through entertainment, that's what Regan is really after, to get people thinking. Ajamole Helen writes at Nige.com, surprisingly, Angie Houston recently told Ellis County News that she is expecting a baby pig as her first child. Houston alleges that one night she came home from a night of playing miniature golf and was pounced on and raped by a 400-pound boar named Pete. People think I'm crazy and need mental help because of my story, Houston said. They ask how the pig would get my panties off and mount me. I wasn't wearing any panties, Hal. This pig's been hot for me for years, constantly sniffing at me. He's tried to rape me 100 times. This is just the first time she's been successful. Angie's father, Don Houston, supports the claim and said, Angie knows she can't have sex till she's married, and promises she hasn't. Pete's always been an ornery pig, so it's not surprising he did this to our daughter. After the incident, I butchered Pete out. The bacon I made him into is helping feed Angela and her baby. After all, she's eating for 2 now and needs a lot of extra meat. Angie reportedly has refused to see an obstetrician to check her and the baby's health or to get a sonogram to see the potential pig baby. I just want to wait and be surprised by what my baby looks like, Angie said. My hope is that it's not a mutant pig of some kind and that it just comes out looking like a normal human baby, which I feel will be the case. Now a story by Simon McCormick at thehuffpo.com. Testicle-eating fish with human-like teeth caught in New Jersey. A fisherman at a South New Jersey lake caught an exotic fish native to South America with human-like teeth and an overblown reputation for munching on male genitalia. Ron Rossi caught a pacu, a tropical freshwater fish typically found in the Amazon basin, in Swedes Lake on Sunday. Pacus gained a reputation as testicle-eating fish after Jeremy Wade featured them on a 2011 episode of his Animal Planet show River Monsters. Wade said the Amazonian locals told him 2 men died after they had their testicles bitten off by this fish. I had heard a couple of fishermen in Papua New Guinea who had been castrated by something in the water, Wade said at the time. The bleeding was so severe that they died. The locals told me that this thing was like a human in the water, biting the testicles of fishermen. They didn't know what it was. Despite the sort of nickname that would make any man cross his legs in fear, pacus aren't much of a threat. They are in the same family of fish as the piranha, but they eat mostly plants, supplementing their diet with smaller fish at times. They do have considerable jaw power, strong enough to crack open tree nuts that fall into the water, but let's not confuse those nuts with other sorts of nuts. Pacu fish are usually found in the Amazon, but have been found in various parts of the United States, including previous spottings in New Jersey, as well as Colorado, California, Arkansas, Texas, Alabama, Idaho, Indiana, Maine, Mississippi, Virginia, Utah, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. As for how this Amazonian fish ended up in Jersey, the state's Department of Environmental Protection said the pacu in question likely belonged to a fish hobbyist. These fish are just a few inches long when they are typically purchased. However, when they reach maturity, they can be as much as 3 feet long and weigh more than 40 pounds, earning them a reputation as tank busters. Now a story from Maria Cheng at thehuffpo.com. Skinny jeans cause severe nerve damage. Attention, wearers of skinny jeans. Don't squat, at least not for long. Doctors in Australia report that a 35-year-old woman was hospitalized for 4 days, experiencing muscle damage, swelling, and nerve blockages in her legs after squatting for several hours while wearing tight-fitting denims. We were surprised that this patient had such severe damage to her nerves and muscles, said Dr. Thomas Kimber of the Royal Adelaide Hospital in Australia via email. The patient, who was not identified, spent most of the previous day helping someone move. Clad in skinny jeans, the woman said, felt increasingly tight, and her feet were numb as she walked home, making her trip and fall. Unable to... Unable to get... Unable to get up, she spent several hours stranded. Unable... Unable to get up, she spent several hours stranded outside before getting to the hospital. Kimber and colleagues published a report about the case online Monday in the Journal of Neurology, Neurosurgery, and Psychiatry. Kimber said tight jeans have previously been reported to cause nerve lesions in the groin, but not the kind of nerve problems in the lower leg and severe muscle damage they saw. He said squatting compressed the nerves in the lower legs, reducing blood supply to the calf muscles, and that the skinny jeans worsened the problem. After being treated for 4 days and having her jeans cut off, the woman still had some weakness in her legs, but walked out of the hospital and later fully recovered. Kimber doesn't know if the woman still wears skinny jeans, but warned her against the dangers of squatting in them. Our favorite journalist, Andres Yarguay, writes at thehuffpo.com, Winnipeg police apologize for cops' seedy chatter over helicopter loudspeakers. First the trailer park boys, and now this filth coming across our northern border. Well, there's currently a border, but not for much longer, as you all are well aware of the impending North American Union. Also, borders are racist. Some conversations should stay in the locker room. Police in Winnipeg, Canada apologized after officers on helicopter patrol Monday unintentionally broadcast their candid conversation over a loudspeaker as they flew over the city's West End neighborhood. Locals told Canada's Global News that it sounded as if the conversation, which included expletives and sexual language, was taking place right behind them. Winnipeg resident Brandy Armstrong was outside with her husband when the helicopter hovered by. She told the CBC that she heard one officer ask, "Can you give me a blowjob?" Another officer replied, "You have too much body hair." Armstrong wants the officers involved to be disciplined. Maybe they'll shave the guy as punishment. People took to Twitter to discuss the chopper chatter. Some were offended while others just found it funny. The hashtag whoops trended in Winnipeg the night of the incident. The Winnipeg police explained in a statement on Tuesday that one of the cops on patrol had inadvertently activated the aircraft's public address system, thus publicly broadcasting the inappropriate conversation. Police say they're reviewing the episode. Mr. Yargwai continues his tour de force of important news by reporting a naked couple arrested in booze-fueled joyride. An Ohio couple's Saturday morning joyride ended in arrests after police discovered them naked behind the wheel. Police in Westlake, Ohio received complaints about a naked man and woman standing outside a parked car in a commercial parking lot at 12:20 a.m. Saturday. An overnight worker spotted the couple in the company's parking lot, called the cops, and watched the man and woman hop into the car and drive away over a curb and tree lawn, according to the New York Daily News. I don't know what a tree lawn is, though. Hold just a moment. You can probably hear them cutting the grass outside of WDCK studios. I'd like to broadcast with the window open for metaphysical and comfort reasons. However, they can't just do this at night once decent people are done broadcasting. One moment, please. When officers pulled over the vehicle, they found Alexandria Maurer, 24, behind the wheel eating a slice of pizza. Her passenger, 33-year-old Kenneth Gillespie, was cradling an open beer between his feet. Both were, quote, without a stitch on, unquote, Police Captain Guy Turner said, according to the New York Daily News. Police ordered Maurer and Gillespie out of the car and told them to put their clothes on. Gillespie had only a sweatshirt and underwear with him, so police gave him shoes and an old pair of jail pants. That was my imagination taking over, apparently. Maurer refused a breathalyzer test and was arrested for operating a vehicle while intoxicated. She was released into the custody of a relative, but jumped out of the car on the way home. Police found her wandering alongside a road 2 hours later and arrested her for disorderly conduct while intoxicated. Gillespie, who was on probation for drug possession, was arrested for disorderly conduct and public indecency, as well as an open container charge. He later urinated in the back seat of the police cruiser. We don't wish to cause alarm, but it does seem that naked driving at night is turning into a thing, possibly because the warm weather is finally here. In May, Michigan police arrested a naked woman after she led them on a 5-mile chase while driving on the wrong side of the road. Fortunately, the woman, Jessie Schwab DeVault, had left her husband and children, who were also naked, at a rest stop before taking off. Ryan Grenoble writes at thehuffpo.com, Guy wakes up from a nap to find a bear casually nibbling on his ankle. Aspen, Colorado resident Peter Rizzuto, that's weird, you don't usually find Italians that far west, had a rude awakening from his afternoon nap last week when a big, hairy creature, not Uncle Bob, approached him on the deck and began nibbling on his ankle. Still sleep in his eyes, and believing it to be a neighbor's dog, he started to pet it. The 77-year-old told the Aspen Times that's when he realized it was no dog at all. I thought it was a German Shepherd, he told the newspaper. I started petting it and said, nice doggy. Then it took my ankle, but didn't break the skin. Then I saw it and looked down at its feet, and I see these big claws with really beautiful nails. At this time, I realize he's a bear. Happily for Rizzuto, the bear did not find him tasty. He sort of backed up and looked at me, and I looked at him, Rizzuto told the Times. The man went inside, and the bear wandered off. Well, much like my evening with my secretary/mistress, Miss Sophia, anticlimactic. Well, not for me, but, for her. Drew Galloway at WHNT.com reports that deputies say an Elkmont teen kills one chicken every 15 minutes until his mother makes nice with his girlfriend. In Limestone County, Alabama, an Elkmont teenager was arrested Thursday after authorities say he followed through on a bizarre threat to kill his mother's chickens unless she mended his relationship between him and his girlfriend. Hayden Smith, age 18, was arrested Thursday and charged with domestic violence, third degree, and criminal mischief. Deputies say the situation started when Smith texted his mother threatening to kill one of her chickens every 15 minutes until she contacted his girlfriend's parents and attempted to mend their broken relationship. Deputies claim Smith gave his mother a deadline of noon before he started to kill the chickens. They say he threatened to burn his mother's house down, kill any deputies that arrived on scene, and kill himself. He then began sending his mother picture messages of each chicken he killed at 15-minute intervals, killing 6 in total before he was arrested, deputies say. There's no word on Smith's current relationship status. And our last story in this segment, by Tracy Clark Flory, study suggests porn addiction is not real. People who report porn addiction may have a problem, but it might not actually be an addiction, new research shows. Yeah, well, tell that to Uncle Bob. Researchers found that people who say they had trouble controlling their consumption of pornography did not show a typical addiction response to sexual images. With addiction, increased brain activity is expected in response to relevant stimuli. Heroin, in the case of a drug addict, for example. But the porn study participants showed decreased brain activity in response to pornography, according to the paper published in the Scientific Journal of Biological Psychology. Well, what a sad note to go out on.
Wondering what Tugboat and his Illuminati buddies are up to? Find out in this segment, Voice of the Tugverse, here on The Voice of Reason, with Tugboat Calhoun.
Benjamin Snyder writes, Apple's co-founder, we're all going to be robots' pets one day. They'll treat humans like pet Labradors. Speaking at a recent technology conference, Wozniak said that the first thought of artificially intelligent beings in charge of everything scared him, but now is a comforting thought. Fast forward hundreds of years when robots are in charge. At that time, humans will probably be treated in a similar fashion to dogs. Wozniak said during an event at the Freescale Technology Forum 2015 in Austin, Texas. It's actually going to turn out really good for humans, he added. So if you survive the reeducation and the camps, you can look forward to being a robot's pet. Most of us treat our dogs relatively well, and some of us make them fight other dogs, so I guess you kind of have the luck of the draw there. David Freeman writes, Mars pyramid seen by NASA rover isn't quite what it seems. NASA's Curiosity rover has photographed a pyramid on Mars, at least that's what some paranormal enthusiasts seem to think. Well, look. If the aliens can build pyramids on Earth, why not on Mars? It's right next door. A new YouTube video from Paranormal Crucible maintains that a photo snapped by a rover's Mastcam camera on May 7th shows a pyramid of near-perfect design and shape, and that the object is likely the result of intelligent design and certainly not a trick of light and shadow. Not surprisingly, NASA's explanation for the object in the photo is somewhat simpler. It is a rock, Dr. Jim Bell, Deputy Principal Investigator of the Mastcam Investigation Program and Professor of Astronomy at Arizona State University in Tempe, told the Huffington Post in an email. As for the size of the rock, Bell said an analysis of the Mastcam team suggests that it's only about 4 inches tall, or the height of an 8-ounce soda can. Who buys 8-ounce soda cans? James Maynard writes, 8 million. That's the number of mummified dogs found in an ancient Egyptian catacomb. Humans are often buried along with the preserved remains of animals and worldly goods. An ancient Egyptian catacomb is being examined, housing the mummified remains of 8 million dogs. The bizarre animal tomb is located beneath the same grounds which holds the oldest pyramid in Egypt. Now, I don't have an Illuminati explanation for this one. This seems to be just some sort of ancient anomaly. Thomas Muller and Andrew Roberts write at Bloomberg.com, billionaire warns social unrest to escalate as robots fuel mass unemployment. We're in for a huge change in society, says billionaire Johan Rupert. Johan Rupert, a South African who has made billions peddling Cartier jewelry and Chloe fashion, said tensions between the rich and poor are set to escalate as robots and artificial intelligence fuel mass unemployment. We cannot have the 1% of 1% taking all the spoils, said Rupert, who has a fortune of $7.5 billion, and himself is the 1% of 1%. It's unfair and it is not sustainable, which means I guess he's going to give away his billions since it's not fair, right? The founder and chairman of Richemont, whose 20 brands include Vacheron Constantin and Mont Blanc, said he expects advances in technology to lead to job losses after having read books on the subject recently. Oh, he's doing book learning, is he? Conflicts between social classes will make selling luxury goods more tricky as the rich will want to conceal their wealth, Rupert said in a speech Monday at the Financial Times Business of Luxury Summit in Monaco. How is society going to cope with structural unemployment and with the envy, hatred, and the social warfare, he said. I don't think he's a native English speaker. We are destroying the middle classes at this stage, and it will affect us. It's unfair, so that's what keeps me awake at night. Well, the bedbugs keep me awake at night, because I don't have $7.5 billion, and therefore, like the other 99%, am forced to contend with bedbugs. Rob Williams at theindependent.co.uk writes, Maldives vote rigging row after black magic coconut is found near polling booth. As political dark arts go, they don't come much darker than this. A vote rigging row has erupted in the Maldives ahead of Saturday's presidential election amid suspicions that one party is using cursed coconuts imbued with black magic spells to sway voters' political allegiances. The claim came after the coconut, described as young, was placed near a polling booth in an alleged bid to disrupt upcoming elections. The fruit has been inscribed with a verse from the Quran and placed near a booth at a school in the remote Kafu Atoll, one of the islands that make up the Indian Ocean archipelago state. Black magic is often used to prevent people from voting or influence them on the islands. Following the discovery of the cursed coconut, police brought in a Ruqya practitioner, that is, a white magician, to examine the coconut. And by white, I believe they mean the opposite of black in respect to magic and not a European, as people in the Maldives are of Indian descent, I believe. The expert found the black magic element of the coconut was fake, Maldives channel Minivan News reported. Because it's a fake, the police are not worried, the source said. Minivan said the source told them the 4-inch coconut had a Quranic verse written in Arabic on it and was lying on the ground near the school, easy for the public to see. It seems like it was a joke, just a prank, so that people will become aware. According to reports, residents had previously complained about the ballot box being placed near the school, given the possibility that such spells could be cast, CNN News reported. The election commissions sought to allay fears, saying they would take responsibility should any students fall ill. In further developments, reported Minivan News, it was claimed that the discovery of the coconut was being used by President Mohammed Wahid's Guyam Ittihad party to redirect attention away from other political parties' gains in the votes. Well, Targonauts, that is all the material I have for today. Next is supposed to come Voice of the Celebrities. I do not have a celebrity lined up to interview today. I could interview my mistress/secretary, but she's busy preparing a already cooked rotisserie chicken for our lunch, as she needs to eat every 2 to 3 hours. I don't know if it's a CrossFit thing. I mean, she doesn't do any kind of exercise, so I don't think it's CrossFit related. But anyway, she's hungry quite frequently, so if I don't sit with her as she eats, she gets upset. So I must go, and I don't believe she wants to be interviewed. But next week in my first program entitled Tugboat's Gift to America, I will be interviewing skateboard legend, actor, comedian, former crack cocaine addict, Perry Caravello, here on my program, The Voice of Reason with Tugboat Calhoun. Remember to always wipe front to back. I'm Tugboat Calhoun, and no one loves you like I do.
Answering questions and reading the news. It's The Voice of Reason with Tugboat Calhoun.